Right, so on to item 8.2. We're back to the Silverdale West industrial area. The team are going to give a similar presentation to the briefing we had on this. So you might remember we pulled this item as there was a bit of confusion around our legal obligations. It has been made clear again through the briefing what our legal obligations are, and the team are also going to give a high-level kind of description of how our submission, the local board submission, Watercare, etc., were dealt with, which was quite significant through the hearing process. Thank you. I'm happy to move, though, just to get it on the table. Councillor Ferry, second. Right.
Mariana Koto. So based off what's happened last time, I'll just do a brief context on Plan Change 103 and kind of like where this plan change is. So just to give some context, we're looking to make Plan Change 103 operative. This is just a procedural matter under the RMA. So Plan Change 103 is a private plan change request by Fletcher Development Limited and Fulton Hogan Land Development, and it seeks to rezone land in Silverdale West from future urban zone to business light industrial zone, and to add this rezoned land into a new Silverdale West industrial precinct. And this is just a map that shows where the location of that plan change applies to. So the Silverdale West structure plan, this was a structure plan adopted by Auckland Council in 2020, and it recognises the need for business land to address the shortfall in the north. And this is relevant to Plan Change 103 as it anticipates rezoning of the land subject to this plan change from future urban zone to business light industrial zone. And the map shows that this development is planned for stage 1, which is intended to be developed between 2022 and 2038. And the Auckland Future Development Strategy is also relevant. This identifies the plan change land as within Silverdale West Stage 1, with development anticipated post-2030 and subject to infrastructure prerequisites. One thing to note is that in the FDS, infrastructure prerequisites align with the FDS states that while infrastructure prerequisites align with council investment, it also allows for alternative infrastructure solutions to be considered and for private funding to advance delivery ahead of planned council investment. And I've just uploaded the sections there, section 4.22 and appendix 6. And PC 103 responds to this framework by providing a developer-funded interim wastewater solution. The precinct provisions also enable a staged approach to development and specify that transport, water, and wastewater infrastructure are required before development or subdivision. And any development or subdivision occurring without the required infrastructure is considered a non-compliant activity. And this is where we are in the plan change process. So it was notified in July 2024, went through the hearings in April 2025. Decision was notified in October. The appeals period was closed in December and no appeals were received. And now the next step is to make the plan change operative. And under the RMA, only the governing body or committee of the whole can approve a plan change to become operative. The Plan Change 103 decision considered and amended the precinct provisions to address a number of key issues that were raised in submissions from Auckland Council, Auckland Transport, Watercare, and also the Rodney Local Board. And these are just a few of the issues outlined. It's also important to note that no appeals were made to the Environment Court by the Auckland Council, Auckland Transport, or Watercare, or any other Plan Change 103 submitter. And Plan change 103 was approved with modifications in the decision of Auckland Council that was notified on 30th October 2025. The appeal period closed on 11 December and no appeals were received. In terms of the RMA, Council shall approve PC 103 under Schedule 1, Clause 17. There is no discretion to do this. Council shall publicly notify the date on which the plan change becomes operative at least 5 working days before the date on which it becomes operative. And the council has obligations to act as promptly as possible, as reasonable in the circumstances. And an alternative to lodge, the alternative to approving is to lodge a late Environment Court appeal, and this is not recommended as the council's decision on PC 103 addressed the matters raised in council submission in terms of infrastructure and ecological matters. So it is therefore recommended that PC 103 is made operative.
Thank you. Are there any questions now that I think we have all the information we need? Okay, great. I think it's clear, and thank you very much for coming and adding that extra step of the explainer, as we haven't done in the past, but happy to continue for committee members. Right, is there anyone speaking to this? Oh, we'll just get you to step back, thank you. Anyone who would like to speak to this? Right. All those in favour? Oh, sorry. So Councillor Gillen would like to speak to this. Yeah.
So just very briefly, I just did want to say that we absolutely did the right thing by deferring this item until today to work through the questions that we had, which were over process more than anything else. And I do want to say that the way the legislation is written is very anti-democratic. It takes control of planning away from council. It seems to be, or the advice we've had is that if a developer puts forward a plan change, a private plan change, then council has to let it go forward to the hearing unless there are very, very small ability to not do that. And then council has to comply with what the hearing commissioners come up with. And even though the legislation then says that council shall approve rather than must approve, the advice I've had is that we essentially must approve what comes through. So we actually completely lose control of the unitary plan in regards to private plan changes. And sorry, my comments are not specifically regarding what's in front of us here, but across all private plan changes. So it has been mentioned there are two ways that we could at least partially mitigate that. One is by ensuring that we have a member of this committee on every hearing panel that is seeing a plan change. So I support that. The problem we have is I don't think there's enough or any members that have the correct accreditations. We need to look at that. And the other way is to take the decision on appealing a private plan change away from the operational staff and bring it back to this committee or a subset of this committee. So going forward, those are two things I'd like this committee to seriously consider and get some proper a report back on how we can progress with those and any other options that there may be to at least inject some sort of democratic process and steps into this process. And look, because I don't agree with the process as it is, I am going to try to make a point of abstaining from any private plan changes that come before us, no matter what the content of them is. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Yeah, so that, just to be clear again, that it was the legal advice to us is that at this stage of a plan change, we only have the ability to approve, to make operative. It is not a may, it is a shall, which is basically like a must. And our ability to have a say was at the beginning. We did put in a submission to decline unless various issues were dealt with, and through the hearings panel, many of those issues were dealt with. Last term, we did reject and we did appeal, but when we had the legal abilities to do so, the windows of rejection are narrow, but we have used that last term quite And we did get a lot of pushback on that. This specific plan change has been clear we did not have those opportunities, and today our job is to make operative. We do not have another choice at this stage. The rest we can continue to discuss in amongst ourselves with staff on advice on that. But that is the RMA, and the new changes to the RMA will become even narrower. So we have given submissions on that. All those in favour? Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain, please.
Cool. So one abstention, Councillor Gillen. Right. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to a similar item. Plan change 1